بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله فأعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم من همزه ونفخه ونفثه بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today we're going to continue our lectures on the Makhaarij of the Arabic letters, Makhaarij al-Huruf, and we studied until the Makhaarij of Aqsa al-Lisan, which were Qaf and Kaf. Before that we studied the Huruf al-Halqi and the Makhaarij of the Jawf, which are the Huruf al-Maddiyah. And today we're going to start with the Wasat al-Lisan. The Wasat al-Lisan is the center of the tongue, and it has only one makhraj with 3 letters. Those 3 letters are al-Jim, al-Sheen, and al-Ya. Al-Ya over here is the Ya which is غير المادية, meaning that it is not the Ya which is one of the mad letters, meaning the sound E that is not pronounced from the Wasat al-Lisan. In fact, it is pronounced from the Jawf. And so what is included over here? Which Ya is غير مادية? غير مادية is any Ya which is not the Ya, which is a sakina, preceded by a kasra. Meaning any Ya other than a Ya, sakina preceded by a kasra is a غير مادية. And that includes Ya with a fatha, with the sound Ya, Ya with a kasra with the sound Yi, and the Ya with a dhamma with the sound Yu. Also Ya sakina but preceded by a fatha, which is the Ya lean with the sound Ay. So the Ya, Yu, Yi, Ay. These 4 sounds are produced or pronounced from the center of the tongue, the Wasat al-Lisan, and the remaining 1, which is the Ya Madiyah, it is pronounced from the Jawf. E. So Jim, Sheen, and Ya, how are they produced? They're produced from the center of the tongue when it is facing the Hanakul A'la or the Al-Hanakul A'la, which is the top of your mouth, the inside top of your mouth. And these letters are also known as the al-huruf al-shajariyah, because they are basically pronounced from the center of the tongue, which is also like a trunk, okay? And it is like the center or the tree or the trunk of the mouth. Therefore these letters are also called as or named as al-huruf al-shajariyah. Imam Ibn al-Jazari mentions these 3 letters in his poem when he says wal-wasṭu fajimu sheenu ya, that from the center are 3 letters, Jim, Sheen, and Ya. Out of these 3 letters, even though they're pronounced from the same articulation point, their actual point of the tongue touching the mouth is a little bit different, because the Wasat al-Lisan or the center of the tongue is a huge area. So the furthermost or the closest to the mouth is Jim. Ad. You'll notice that when you pronounce Jim, it should be so you can say the connection between your tongue and the top of your mouth, it should be so strong that there is no room left for any sound or any air to come out. I'll just give an example without qalqala on Jim. Ad. So now I'm pressing my tongue against the top of my mouth so hard that there is no room for any sound or any space or any air. And that is the reason we do qalqala on Jim and all those letters which have the combined sifat of al-jahr and ashidda. Al-jahr means that there is no breath or no air coming out of your mouth, or the makhraj at the point of articulation when you're pronouncing that letter. And ashidda means that you do not have any sound coming out of that makhraj either. So when these two sifat, these two characteristics, they combine together, and we'll study this in detail in the topic of qalqala. When these two combine together, it is impossible for the reader to differentiate between the sounds of these different letters. For example, ad, ad, ab, aq, at. So although you get an idea what is being said, but when you're reciting in a normal speed, it's very difficult to guess what letter was read, except that if you make it, you can say if you elaborate it by doing qalqala. So we do qalqala on the sakin huruf, and they become something like this: aj, aq, at, ab, ad. So these 5 letters qutab wajad, we do qalqala on them due to the reason that they have shiddah and they have jahr as well, meaning there is no sound coming out of their makhraj, there is no air coming out of their makhraj when you read them. So this was a little bit about Jim and why it should be pronounced with the complete, you can say, contact between your tongue and the top of your mouth. The coming a little bit back from Jim, from the makhraj of Jim. We're still on the center of the tongue, by the way. Jim is on the center of the tongue, and now we're on the center of the tongue, but coming a little bit towards your halq, a little bit away from your mouth. So you'll find that when you say ash, it's a little bit towards the throat and away from the mouth. Then when you say aj, ash, ay, ash, ay. And similarly, when you say ya or ay, then you're using the center of your tongue, but the portion that is the farthest away from your mouth and the one that is the closest from your throat. So you can say the order of these 3 letters coming from the direction of the mouth going towards the throat is like aj, ash, ay. I'm still a little bit confused about the order of ya and sheen, but I'll check. If I'm mistaken, I'll just let you know about this, inshallah ta'ala. So these letters are known as al-huruf al-shajariyah, as I told you, I think before as well, a few minutes ago, because they come from the shajarul fam or wasatuhu. And before we begin with the next makharij, it is important to revise the names of the teeth as well. So the first 2 teeth, the upper and lower, they're known as al-thanaya. The next 2 upper and lower, they're known as al-rubaiyat. The next 2 upper and lower, they're known as al-anyab. The next 2 upper and lower, they're known as al-dawahik. The next 3 on each side and on top and bottom, meaning total 12 molar teeth, they're known as al-tawahin. And then the last molar teeth, which we also call as the wisdom tooth, it is known as an-nawajid or durusul aql. And the tawahin, the dawahik, and the nawajiz all together, I mean all the molar teeth together, they're known as al-adras. Al-adras. So now that we understand this, let's quickly move on to the next makhraj. And if someone wants to listen to these names again or in more detail, you can go back to the initial lectures where we discussed this in detail. And the next you can say point is mawdu' hafat al-lisan, the area of the side of the tongue. From here we have 2 makharij again, and one of them is for the letter dad and the other one is for the letter lam. So coming to dad first, dad is one of the most difficult letters of the Arabic language, so much so that the Arabs say that Arabic language is the language of dad. It's the lughatul dad, language of dad, because it's so difficult to read. Secondly, there is a difference of opinion among the scholars as to what should be the sound of dad. if you notice about the current scholars of the subcontinent, they read Dad with a sound which is similar to the sound of La, or similar to the sound of Za, or the, for the matter, if someone does not do isti'ala or and itbaq. But the Arab ulama, almost all of them, I don't know any exception until now, they've like currently they have like an ijma' on this issue, that the sound of this letter is not law, but in fact it's law. And as far as I know, the difference is when you are pronouncing the letter, are you supposed to put your tongue with the front teeth, or are you supposed to fold it a little bit so that it does not make the sound of dal? Now, each of the side of scholars, they have their own dalil, they have their own proofs. And the Arab scholars say that since tajweed is something which was originally heard and then transferred from breast to breast, generations after generations, until it reached us, so therefore we cannot rely on the rules or the books alone and say that this is the makhraj, because what is being read by the Arabs, that is the correct one. And the Pakistani or the Indian ulama, they reply by saying that, number one, these Arabs that are present these days, they're not the real Arabs. The real Arabs were those in those times, and now these Arabs are mixed with different languages and different cultures and everything. So their language is not as pure as it used to be. And this is true to quite a great extent, because you see that the Arabic language now has even the letter ga. For example, the people of Misr, the people of Egypt, the Egyptians, they say masjid instead of masjid. And for example, they want to say jami'ah, they will say gami'ah. So this is very common among the Arabs nowadays, that they have different sorts of makhaarij. Someone pronounced qaf as gaf, and or ghain, and the ghain as qaf. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Nevertheless, the ulama are still the ulama, and they have great makhaarij and everything, but they do not recite it as law. They recite it as law. And secondly, the second thing that the Pakistani or the Indian ulama say is, that's number one, that they're not the real Arabs anymore, and number two, that those Arabs who wrote the rules of nahv and sarf in the beginning of Islam, I mean shortly after the period of the Prophet ﷺ, when scholars started to gather these ulum, those same scholars wrote in their books the rules of tajweed as well. So if you see their books, you will find that they are saying that the voice of Dad is actually close to Dha. So and they even said that the voice of Dad is actually close to Za or Zay. So that means if you don't do isti'ala or itlaq, it should become Zay. But over here, the way the Arabs read now, if you don't do isti'ala and itlaq, it does not become Zay, but it becomes Dal. For example, if I'm saying walad, I'm going to lose the itlaq first. Walad. Now I'm going to lose the isti'ala as well. Walad. So see, it just becomes dal. If you lose the itlaq and the isti'ala, it becomes dal. So I'm still, to be honest, I'm still very confused about this issue, which one of these sounds is the better one. But wallahu a'lam, it seems that the Pakistani ulama are very strong in their dalil. Even Imam Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah has a separate, you can say, a portion of his poem Al-Muqaddimat al-Jazriyah dedicated only to this issue, that what is the difference between Dad and Dha. And then he mentions all the kalimat in the Quran which have been pronounced with Dha, because they are lesser than the ones that have been pronounced with Dad, or vice versa, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He mentions one of these letters, and all the kalimat, all the words that have been made from that letter, and they are the ones that are less in number, because the other one obviously is greater in number, and he could not mention that in his poem. And he says something like وَالضَّادُ بِاسْتَطَالَةٍ وَمَخْرَجِ مَيِّزْ مِنَ الضَّائِ وَكُلُّهَا تَجِي في الظعن ظل الظهر عظم الحفظ أيقظ وأنظر عظم ظاهر اللفظ ظاهر ذا شواظ كظم ظلم أغلو ظلام ظفر انتظم أصفر ظنا كيف جاء وعص واعظين ظل النحل زخرف سوا وظلت ظلتم روم ظلوا I don't remember something after that. I have to revise that. Nevertheless, you see that he mentions all the kalimat with dha. And he mentions that because when you pronounce these kalimat in the Quran, you should be aware that you're not going to mix the sound of dha with the sound of dad. So if we pronounce that dad as dad, then actually there is no way that these two sounds are going to mix. The only possibility when these sounds are actually going to mix with each other is when you pronounce dha and the second sound is dha, dha, dha. Now here there's a big possibility of you not doing istitala, of you not pronouncing dha from the correct makhraj and the sound going just like dha. So again, wallahu alam, but the dalil of the Pakistani ulama is very strong, and that is what seems to be the case from the books of the Arab scholars which have written the qawaid of tajweed. But nevertheless, you cannot force anyone on this issue. I personally myself, since I studied from the Arab scholars, I follow their sound. But inshallah, I plan to discuss this issue with Pakistani scholars as well and see how they pronounce it, because I cannot pronounce it correctly as they do until now. Yeah, so that was just a small ikhtilaf, not a small actually, big ikhtilaf, which is in the makhraj of dad. Coming back to how is it supposed to be pronounced, because there's no difference of opinion in the makhraj, right? So you take the side of your tongue, which is hafatul lisan, and you touch it. I'm talking about the mutaharrik one first. You touch it with all of your molar teeth. So there's 5 on one side and 5 on the other side. So you touch it with all of your molar teeth, collectively known as al-idras, and then you slowly take away your tongue from you slowly separate your tongue from your teeth, and that creates the sound blah, 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 blah. And as for the case when it is sakin, when it has no haraka, then you contract your tongue a little bit towards the rear, towards your throat. You start touching your tongue from the molar teeth which are at the end of your mouth, and you slowly you touch all of your tongue to your molar teeth from the sides, of course, and then the remaining portion of the tongue, which is from the front, you go and touch it to the top of your front 2 teeth. And this is, I think, is the point of ikhtilaf. The Pakistani ulama do not believe that you should touch the tip of your tongue to the top of your front 2 teeth, because if you do that, then the sound of lad is going to come, or adl is going to come, and they say this is not the correct sound. Wallahu ta'ala alam. And the Arab scholars, of course, they say that istitala cannot be done until you do this. Nevertheless, leaving the discussion aside, Lad can be pronounced from one of the sides of the tongue or both of the sides of the tongue. You can either choose to use the left side of the tongue or the right side of the tongue or both sides of the tongue. It comes from a narration that Umar ibn al-Khattab radiyallahu anhu used to use both sides of his tongue, and that is the most difficult makhraj for Lad. The easiest one that most people say is if they touch the left side of their tongue to the teeth, and if you touch the right side of the tongue, that's okay as well, but that's lesser known. And as I said, the most difficult one is if you touch both sides of your tongue to your molar teeth. And but if you practice it, you can achieve that. That's not a very big deal. Of course, everything of course can be achieved through practice, but it takes a lot of practice, because Lad is not easy to pronounce. I've changed that makhraj for about 4 or 5 times just to make it correct. I read it, and then I thought I'm doing it correctly. Then someone corrected me that no, you're supposed to do this. And then I corrected it, and then I came to know that no, I'm supposed to do this. And then I corrected it, and then I got to know again that no, I'm supposed to do this. So it keeps it, in the beginning you'll have to change your makhraj 4 or 5 times until you perfect it. And it takes a lot of time, of course. The next makhraj is the makhraj of lam. By the way, as for dad, Imam al-Jazari mentions in his poem some verses for that, and says وَالضَّادُ مِنْ حَافَتِهِ إِذْ وَلِيَ لَضْرَاسَ مِنْ أَيْسَرَ أَوْ يُمْنَهَا, meaning that the makhraj of dad is from the hafatul lisan, the sides of it, when it touches, or when it is close to, when it is in front of, when it touches the idras. Idras, I already told you, is the name of all the molar teeth in our mouth collectively. And then he says min aysara aw yumnaha, so meaning he says from the yisar or from the yamin, from the left or from the right. So both things are okay for a person to choose from, and he can choose whatever is easy for him, inshallah ta'ala. The next makhraj is lam. Lam is again from hafatul lisan, but adna hafatul lisan. Adna hafatul lisan is the hafatul lisan which is closer to your mouth. The makhraj of lam is that you spread out your tongue and then you touch it to the top of your teeth, which are 8 in number. So 2 thanaya, and then 2 rubaiyat, and then 2 anyab, and then 2 dawahik. So total 8 teeth on the top of your mouth, and when your tongue touches these 8 teeth, the sound of al is produced. Just like we have a concession in dad, we have a concession in lam as well. The ulama say that if you pronounce lam from all 8 teeth, or from 4 on the left or 4 on the right, either way it's the correct makhraj, inshallah ta'ala. And with this, I think we can stop here, because the next makhraj, or the next area, is mawdi'u taraf al-lisan, and that has 5 specific makharij and 11 letters. So inshallah we'll keep that for the next time. Do keep practicing this, and especially pay a lot of attention to the makhraj of dad. And if there is any confusion, you can always ask me, or if you want to send your tilawa, which I highly recommend you do send that. And if you don't want to do that, or if you cannot find time for that, then at least go to someone in your local area, or one of your local mosques, an imam or who is known for his tajweed, who is an expert in tajweed, and recite to him and see if you're actually doing it right. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.